Welcome to the In Love with PMDD podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist, and I help you stop the monthly PMDD breakups. PMDD is premenstrual dysphoric disorder. It is in approximately 1 in 5 women, and it makes you want to break up with your partner approximately 1 to 2 weeks before your period every single month. So as someone who has suffered with PMDD for over 18 years, I dedicated my doctorate practice to helping partners navigate those monthly PMDD breakups with everything from attachment styles, triggers, sensitivity to noise, sensitivity to touch, all of the things that you really struggle with when you're in PMDD. And I also dedicated my dissertation to a phenomenological study of the relationship experiences of partners of individuals who suffer with premenstrual dysphoric disorder. So I'm not just here to help the sufferer, the one who is suffering with PMDD. I am here for the partners as well. So if you need those private sessions, make sure you go to inlovewithpmdd.com and get those tools. So let's get into this week's PMDD trauma transformational tools that is going to help you stop the monthly breakups and stop the suffering and stress in your PMDD relationship. Let's get into it. Today, we are going to be talking all about self-soothing in your PMDD relationship. But before we get into that, I need to really give you an update of everything that's been going on in my PMDD relationship. So much has gone on. This has been a very hectic week for me. And luckily for me, I'm on day 2 of PMDD. And by luckily, I mean like sarcastically, right? So if you've been following along, I moved into this new apartment, which I love because I'm in my new podcast studio that's within the apartment that I've actually rented out to record. And I love it so much. But it's just giving me that space outside of the home to really focus on everything that's been going on, because it's been a lot. It has really been a lot. And the last time we really talked about everything that was going on with me, my PMDD partner, he had moved out of our home, right? I had like a 4-bedroom home, upstairs, downstairs, all of these things. And I've completely downsized into a 2-bedroom. And I've really gotten into this minimalistic mode, right? Which PMDD, I've tried to use it to my advantage by like, when I have energy, like when I was in my ovulation stage, I'm trying to organize everything. But it just, oh my gosh, like I love it so much, but it's a lot. It's a lot to switch around. And so you know that the last time, I say it was about 4th of July. So actually only like not even 2 months ago. I'm looking at the date. I'm like, it's not even been 2 months since we had that big blow up and he ended up leaving. And now his health was on the mend after that last cancer scare. So if you haven't listened to the previous episodes, please go listen so you understand what I'm talking about. But he had the cancer scare, he had the tumor removed, and I thought that we were in the clear. And then over this last week, I if you're following me on Instagram, you know that we just had our anniversary. And when we had our anniversary, he upgraded as a gift for our anniversary. He upgraded my wedding ring, got me a whole new set. And I was really just riding on that high because I made sure that I visited him when I was in my follicular phase. So I was really in like this, yes, everything's great. He upgraded my ring as a surprise. I was so happy. And then we had an amazing weekend. We saw a lot of sunsets. We went by the beach. We had good food. I was in my follicular days. And literally everything shifted when I went home. So that was like, I would say about between a Friday. Yeah, it was a Friday that I left, but early Friday. So I was there by Friday afternoon. And then Sunday afternoon, I was back. And when I got back, I was like still on that high. Like I was still in my follicular days. I was still feeling good. And all of a sudden, I talked to him on Monday. Like I talk to him every day when he gets off of work. He has a short commute on his way home. And when he was on his way home, I was just trying to speak really positive things. Like I was just in a really good mood. You know how you get in your follicular days and you feel like you're back to yourself. So you're like, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And that's where I was. And I remember him saying to me, oh, babe, like I know that you're saying all these things. Like I really need to just clear my head. I'm about 10 minutes from home. I just want to clear my head. And he had never said this before. So I was like, okay. But again, I was in my follicular days. So I was kind of not taking it defensively. I'm like, okay, you can clear your head. There's pretty much very little that you could have said to me to like bring me down. So I was like, okay, cool. And he was like, no. And then he said, no, 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 no. I feel bad. I'm gonna stay on the phone. And I'm like, no, babe, I understand like mental health. Like if you feel like you need to clear your head, like I was literally having the patience of Mother Teresa because I was in my follicular days. I'm like, it doesn't matter what you do to me. I still love you. Like that's how I was. And so he got off the phone and I went to sleep that night, and that was Monday. And the next day, like I had set my alarm, but I don't, well, you wouldn't know this, but I keep my phone, all my close friends know this. I put my phone on do not disturb when I go to sleep because I get a lot of notifications, a lot of things, all of the businesses run from my phone. And I'm a light sleeper. So the littlest like ding, 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 like I'll wake up and not be able to go back to sleep. So I put my phone on do not disturb by set hours. And I would say by 9 p.m., and then all the way up to actually it's for 12 hours. That's pretty impressive. So not that I don't wake up until 9 a.m., but I do a lot of my content. I do my morning routine and I don't like to be disturbed. I will come out of do not disturb to say good morning to my PMDD partner, send out devotional, kind of check in a little bit. But outside of that, I keep my phone and do not disturb for about 12 hours every night. And so I had my phone on do not disturb. I was feeling really good. I got really good sleep. So that doesn't mean I go to sleep at 9 p.m. I definitely don't, but that's just like my wind down time because the majority of my day is pouring into others and figuring things out with PMDD. So I just use that time. And so when I woke up in the morning, I woke up that day because it was a rest day for my morning routine. So I wasn't going to go work out. I woke up at about 7 a.m. and literally I had messages from my PMDD partner, about 10 messages. And my PMDD partner goes to sleep like really, really early. Like he wakes up at 3:30 in the morning. He goes to sleep at like 7:30, 8 o'clock. He's out because he wakes up so early because that's his time that he trains. Remember, he's a Marine. So I was so surprised to see messages from him at like 2 something, which is like a couple of minutes from the time that he was supposed to wake up. And when I got his messages, it was like a monologue. So the thing that that I noticed about my PMDD partner early on in dating is that he's very communicative. Like I know that I have a lot of private clients, and I know a lot of you out there have PMDD partners that don't communicate well with you. Like they don't tell you what's going on with their mind. You don't really know what's going on with them. You kind of have to dig it out of them. And I've had partners like that in the past where I'm like, I never know what's going on with them. Like they're so stoic. Like they're so like, I don't know. Like I have to dig and dig and dig to figure out what's going on with them. And when when I met my PMDD partner, I was very shocked that he literally tells me everything, whether I want to know it or not. Right. So he was pretty much giving me a monologue. And he was like, something doesn't feel right in my stomach. I don't feel good. Something's not right. So then that's at like 2:22. It was like 2:22. And I was like, oh, angel numbers. Like, okay. So then a little bit later, he was like, I'm gonna go to the ER. That was like an hour later because I know him. He probably tried to go back to sleep because he loves sleep, like loves sleep, right? As much as I love sleep when I'm in PMDD, that's how he loves sleep every single day. So I know he probably tried to go to sleep and then he couldn't. So he must have really been in pain. He was like, I'm going to go to the ER. Then he messages again, like within the 10 messages. He's like, oh, I'm just checked into the ER. They're going to do the CT scan. Then he's like, oh, they're going to do an MRI. Like, I'm like, what is going on? So imagine me sitting on the edge of my bed at like 7 o'clock in the morning, seeing all these messages. And then he's like, oh, they're going to send me back. Okay, it's not blood clots. They thought it was blood clots. It's not blood clots. Something was going wrong with his stomach. So I'm like, okay, he's always really had this mode of like things are wrong with his stomach. So I'm like, okay, but I don't know. I've been so used to it that I'm just like, oh, something's wrong with his stomach. So then he says, "Oh, it's not that they're going to do a CT scan." So they do the CT scan. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so impressed at how fast they are." Like anything that he would have said to me in person, he was literally saying like via text message. So I'm sitting here like, okay. So then scrolling down and then he's like, okay, turns out my gallbladder is crap. Like, so now it's something wrong with his gallbladder. So I'm like, wait, what? So then he's like, they're trying to see what they can do. They're going to take another scan. I'll let you know what happens like when I get out. So then he gets out. All of this is happening between 2:22 and like 7 a.m. when I wake up. So he's like, oh, I have to get it removed. They're saying I have to have surgery to get my gallbladder removed. And I'm sitting there like, what? So then he's like, oh, they're going to take me back for the pre-test. Like you have to do all this pre-test or whatever for surgery. Then he's like, okay, they're about to wheel me out. So basically, by the time I got to the 10th message, he was like, they're going to wheel me out for surgery. I'll keep you updated. I wake up to that and I'm like, so I immediately call him. He doesn't answer. I'm assuming that he's already in surgery at this point. And I'm wondering, like, why did they have to have emergency surgery? I don't know what is going on with the gallbladder, right? So I was laughing because my friend, Angie and Malika, they're like, oh, but you're a doctor now. I'm like, I'm not that kind of medical doctor. Like, I don't know what is going on with his gallbladder. Like I'm a psychological doctor, like with your mind. I don't know what's going on with what is in his body to where they have to do this emergency surgery because our hospitals have this thing called same day surgery, and same day surgeries are normally for emergencies, like where it's like last case, like worst case scenario, we got to take whatever out, we got to do whatever. So we have a whole department for that, and I know that because I was the head of the medical facility for human resources, right, admin. Um, so I'm like, why? So I haven't talked to a doctor. I haven't talked to a nurse. All I'm doing is getting these cryptic messages from my PMDD partner that's like, oh, now I'm doing this. Now I'm doing this. And I'm like, wait, what? So I try to call him. He doesn't answer. So I call my best friend, Angie, of course. I send a voice message to Malika because me and Malika normally message like via Instagram, but like voice messaging because we're both really busy. She has a billion businesses. I have multiple streams that I'm working. So like we always do Instagram, like where you can verbally send the messages and we just listen when we can. So I sent her an update. We do like a daily update. And then my best friend, Angie, I call her. She always answers. Well, she doesn't answer. I call her, she doesn't answer. And then she calls back 5 minutes later and she answers. It's like back in the day where they had those things called the beepers, where like you have the beeper, like someone like messages you from a payphone and then it's time to call them back. So that's literally what happened. So I was like, okay, so let me go ahead and wait for her to call me back in 5 minutes. So she calls me back and she's like, what's going on? And I basically say, like I have this situation where I kind of try to prescribe to her like all the things that the messages are saying, and she is like freaking out. She's like, "What is going on?" And I'm like, "I don't have the answers because I haven't talked to not one doctor yet." So then eventually, my PMDD partner calls me back, and he's saying things that are not really medical terms. So he's like, "My gallbladder was in the crap, so they have to go ahead and remove it. I'm being willed in." So he had already been hooked up. He was already high off of anesthesia and everything. He just called me back because they put the phone in their pocket. And he saw that I had finally woken up and called, which I felt really bad about because normally I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning. But when I'm like, I don't know, I've been allowing myself a little bit more sleep and a little bit more leniency and not being so rigid. So had I been on my normal routine, I wake up at 5, 4:30 or 5. But I was in that mode of like, I'm trying to figure things out. And you realize outside of the next couple of episodes, you realize the journey that I'm going on now that my doctorate is completed. But anyway, so he basically was like, oh, they willed me in here. They hooked me up to all the things. And my gallbladder is so bad that they have to remove it. And I'm like, what? I don't know this. I'm having to Google like what that means. He's like, I don't know what it means, and so we're in the middle of trying to figure things out. And then the doctor comes in and he's like, oh, babe, I gotta go. So that was like at like 7:45 in the morning. I at literally by noon, I don't hear anything from him. When I Google it, it says that a gallbladder removal surgery should have only been an hour. So I'm like, what the heck is going on? So I'm freaking out trying to figure out what's going on. And I don't know what to do because I don't have the doctor's information. Like I don't know what's going on. So I went to work and I'm like, at work, but I'm like looking at my phone like at any moment. So I told the important people in our lives, I would say there's about 4 or 5 of them, my 2 sisters that were basically like, what's going on? What's the update? Like all throughout their workday. And I'm like, I don't know, which is and they're like, you're the wife, you're supposed to know. I'm like, I literally talked to him for like 5 minutes before he went under surgery, and I'm pretty sure he was high.com.org.edu. Like he was like not high. So they were like, oh my gosh. So then my sister says, hey, because it was like lunchtime, like 12 o'clock. So I'm like, what the heck? So they were like, hey, isn't that like, do you know what hospital he's at? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay. So then I was like, let me call the front desk. So I call the front desk. I get transferred to same day surgery. And I give his name, and then they say, oh, okay, the anesthesia just went off in 20 minutes, like in 20 minutes, the anesthesia will go off. So basically he'll be coming down from his high, and then you'll probably get a call within an hour. So it took like an hour and a half. He called me back and he sounded horrible. He was like, I don't know, and da 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 da. So I'm sitting here trying to figure out what do I do? Like, I'm like, do you want me to come there? I don't know why I asked that question, but I was like, do you want me to come there? He was like, I don't know what you're gonna do. You're just gonna be sitting in, the house while I go to work. And I'm like, go to work? Like, why do you think you're going to work? You know what I mean? I'm trying to like think in my head, like, why does he think he's going to work? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I think it would be a waste of time, a waste of energy, blah, blah, blah. So I'm listening to him. And then I call back my best friend, and my best friend Angie is like, no, you need to be there. Like everybody that knows the both of them is like, you need to be there. So I'm literally like between a rock and a hard place. I have client calls. I have all of these things that's going on. I have work. And so I like literally go to my boss and I'm like, hey, I need to go. And he's like, what's going on? And I told him what happened. And he's like, oh, yeah, like you can go. So then I'm going to book a flight. Like I have to figure out things with our daughter, our dog, like all of the things. So I literally hop on a plane within 24-hour notice, pay $1 billion, by the way, like literally. I'm in California. So imagine like a same day flight. So I go and I fly there, and he's gotten back from the hospital. I think that he thought that it was going to be similar to the pain that he experienced when he had his tumor surgery. Like whenever he had his tumor removed, I don't know what they did, but it was kind of painless. But we're talking about a gallbladder removal surgery, right? Where they're cutting open multiple layers of your stomach. There's 4 incisions, and it's not good because it uses your core muscles. And what I've learned through this experience, you literally use your core muscles for everything. So I was in that place of being like, okay, well, I'm just going to go there. So he said, don't come. I just went ahead and went. So basically I caught the flight. I did all the things. And then I told him, I was like, well, I'm going to be on my way there. And he's like, see you soon. And when that anesthesia wore off from my PMDD partner, he was in excruciating pain. Worst pain than I've ever seen him in my entire life. He can't sit up by himself. He can't roll over by himself. He can't walk at all. Like everything was just hard for him. And I don't think that he anticipated that. So the whole thing about going to work was not a thing. And I'm so glad that I came because he has a roommate, but his roommate was at work, and his roommate goes to his wife's house on the weekend. So they weren't going to be there. So I literally packed the bag and I went there, and I was like, we had a follow-up appointment on that Friday, and we had that follow-up appointment. When I heard was horrendous, which is basically what I learned from that appointment was that he had gallbladder stones, but because he kept pressing on his gallbladder, like where it was, like underneath your chest, like underneath your rib or whatever, he basically was like gnawing on them. Like, I don't know how that works, but basically when they went to remove, because I was like, why is the surgery so long? They had to peel his gallbladder off of his liver because it was literally stuck to it because the stones were like smushed into like mush, like sludge is what they called it. And so and there's so many nerves and organs that are like surrounding it. So I was like, oh my God, like what is going on? So then like I'm there and I promise you I'm gonna get to the tools, but I just have to let you know like where I'm at. And I stayed with him for a couple of days and then I'm like, you're not gonna be ready. Like I had to go to back to work on Monday. I had a lot of stuff to do. And I'm like, that I couldn't do from his place. And I'm like, he's pretty much not going to be ready to, you know, be on his own in anytime soon. So I'm like, what do you feel about coming back home with me? You know, that way I can take care of you and all these things. And I can still do my business and still do work and take care of our daughter, like our dog. Like I have a lot of responsibilities. So he was like, okay. So I booked the flight again, another same day, like another $1 billion. And I booked the same day flight for us to come back. And lo and behold, the day that I was scheduling to go back was the day that PMDD hit. And that's when everything like happened because I get my symptoms at night. Like I can literally feel them the night before I go into PMDD. So maybe I go into PMDD at night. But it was basically a situation where he was feeling the shift. He was feeling the shift of me coming out of that loving, open place in my follicular phase to me being straight into PMDD. I knew I was going to PMDD soon, but I wasn't really tracking it as much because I knew that I had all of these like emergency things to do. And so he made a comment like that night when we were laying in the bed. And I was helping him up every night before. Like if he had to go to the bathroom, I had to like grab his arm, his hand, pull him up because he didn't have the strength in his abs to even get out of the bed. So I did that like 8 times throughout the night. Like I barely got sleep. When I go into PMDD, I need sleep. Like it's not even an option. And so I remember the second night that I did that, he was like, "Am I bothering you?" and stuff like that. And I literally was turned over and I was going to sleep. And I'm like, don't do this. Like, don't start asking the questions. He knows that questions are a trigger to me. He's like, well, I don't know if I should go home with you because I know you're going into PMDD. I can already see it, like all of these things. And he was triggering me because I genuinely wasn't bothering him, but he just felt this sense of anxiety about, man, the last time I went home on this, you know, when I was sick, like, and I was going through surgery, like we had a big blow up, and he was like, I don't want it to be like it was before. And he's saying all of this after I'm like half sleep. I'm like, don't do this. Like, I'm not doing anything to you. Like, he was filled with so much fear, so much anxiety. And that's where I'm getting into the lesson today that I want you to learn about self-soothing in your PMDD relationship. So what that refers to when we talk about self-soothing, it's a practice of your PMDD partner managing and regulating their own PMDD emotions, distress, and discomfort that are related to PMDD symptoms. This is a situation where you're not trying to fix your PMDD partner. I want you to release the burden of feeling like if your PMDD partner is being triggered, that you have to fix them, that you have to make it better for them. So it involves using techniques and strategies to calm oneself, reduce anxiety, and improve the overall emotional well-being without solely relying on you, the PMDD partner, as support. So a lot of times what this looks like is your PMDD partner is triggered because they see that you're going into this mode of being into PMDD and they have all of these really strong emotions and you're in that space of really feeling like I have to fix it for them. Like you're feeling like, oh, they're in an uncomfortable place. I have to fix it for them. I want you to release the anxiety of feeling like you have to fix your PMDD partner. Allowing them to self-soothe means that you're knowing that they're feeling triggered. You're knowing that they're having these negative emotions, but you're not in a position where you feel like you have to do something about it. There's so much pressure when you're in that mode of feeling like you have to basically make your PMDD partner feel better, especially if you are experiencing PMDD emotions within yourself, right? So if you're already suffering in PMDD, the fact that you think that you have to make your PMDD partner feel better is more pressure for you. So for you that have PMDD, self-soothing can be particularly beneficial during times of heightened emotional sensitivity, distress caused by all of the hormonal fluctuations. But basically, what I'm telling you is if your PMDD partner is in a mood and you're in a mood, let them self-regulate. All of the tools that I give you on here are a way for you to regulate your own emotions while you are in PMDD. You have to allow your partner to do the same thing. So although they don't have PMDD symptoms, they can experience heightened emotions by noticing your shift and trying to navigate what that looks like in your PMDD relationship. You have to let them self-soothe. Stop trying to fix them. So I'm going to go over the ways that you can allow them to self-soothe, because they have to pick out a way that looks best for them. Like we all have ways, or maybe we don't have ways. We're still trying to figure out our ways of dealing with our PMDD symptoms. But for everyone, for you with PMDD and you without PMDD, you should not feel like your partner is responsible for regulating your emotions. It is not your partner's fault that you're experiencing the emotions, and it's not your partner's responsibility for you to get out of those emotions. So that's the thing. I feel like so many times we get into this mode of, I'm in a PMDD relationship. Now my PMDD partner is now responsible for my emotions. No, they are not. That is too much pressure to put on any person. They are not responsible for your emotions. You are responsible for your emotions, even though you're in PMDD. And there are several ways that you can regulate yourself, but self-soothing is so important because this is what you're going to need. You're going to need your PMDD. If you're suffering with PMDD symptoms, you're going to need your PMDD partners to be able to self-soothe so that they don't trigger you while you're in PMDD. What this looks like is, I was struggling with PMDD. I was struggling with the symptoms because I was going from one end of the spectrum to the other. I was feeling really, really positive, and then all of a sudden I felt really, really negative. And it takes me a while to like regulate what that feels like. I'm like, man, that's crazy. Like I was just feeling like I was so loving. I was so patient. I was so kind. I was so proud of myself for being that way. And then I go straight into this place of being completely annoyed and repulsed by my PMDD partner. So it takes me a minute to regulate what that looks like, right? So when I get into that mode of regulating what that looks like, it takes some time, right? And so my PMDD partner can see me go inward. The luteal phase when you're in PMDD is meant to go inward. That is what I want to let you know. When you are going through PMDD, you're not meant to be this extroverted, even if you have an extroverted personality. You're not meant to be this extroverted person that's super, super outgoing, super, super loving, super, super all these things. Take the pressure off of yourself. That's not the place you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be going inward and really focusing on what you're feeling, what is really going on with you. And the first PMDD trauma transformational tool is mindfulness and meditation. What I will tell you is, when I'm giving you these tools, use what works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, move on. And I tell this to my private clients. I give you options. Some things work for one PMDD partner that don't work for another. So mindfulness and meditation is key for me. And let me tell you what my mindfulness is. My mindfulness means I'm self-aware of how I'm feeling in the moment. If you follow me on Instagram, you know that I basically tell you how I'm feeling on a daily basis, wherever I am in my cycle. So if you're not following me, you need to follow me. I tell you how I'm feeling every single day. Day 1 of this, day 2 of this, whether I'm in PMDD, whether I am in my luteal phase, whether I'm in my follicular phase, I'm in ovulation, I'm on my cycle. I'm telling you how I feel, and that's a way of being mindful. It's that self-awareness of noticing where you are in your cycle and how that's making you feel. And the reason why I do that is because earlier in my journey, I was like going with the flow. I was pretty much like, whatever happens, happens. Like I was kind of avoiding how I was feeling. So I wasn't in that place of really recognizing, oh, I feel this way, so I should do this. right? Avoidance doesn't work. Self-awareness and mindfulness works. So if you're not involved in a mindfulness practice, you can reach out to me. Look at my Instagram stories. It'll kind of give you an understanding of what that looks like. It's basically when you wake up in the morning and you're saying all the symptoms that you're feeling. You're confronting them. You're not denying them. You're not trying to pretend like you're totally fine. Like I used to be that person that everybody would ask me how I was doing. And I'm like, I'm totally fine. I'm totally fine. I was not totally fine. I was suffering on the inside, but I just didn't know how to communicate that. So now I'm very mindful of my emotions, my thoughts, what's going on in my body, what's going on in my mind, like how I'm feeling. Am I feeling triggered already? And I'm noticing how I'm feeling without any interaction with anyone else. That's why it's so important to do it in the morning, because I'm feeling this way without my PMDD partner. So a lot of times I used to blame my PMDD partner. I'm feeling like this because of you. But if I'm recognizing that I'm feeling this way when I'm waking up first thing in the morning, it's not because of my PMDD partner. It's because of me. And I have to recognize that. So meditation is a way to promote relaxation, releasing the stress, like creating a sense of calm. That looks different for me on a day-to-day basis, but I will tell you, I don't do the typical meditation where you just sit down. Like I remember learning about meditation before, and I was like, I can't do this. Like I can't just sit like and cross my legs on a like I bought all the things. I bought like there's like these stones. I bought like the Buddha pillow. Like I was like all in that mode. And then I noticed what works for me is walking meditation. I can walk out in nature and that's my meditation. Walking meditation in nature with my headphones in, listening to calming music. That's the kind of meditation that works for me. So when I say mindfulness and meditation can look differently for everyone. And I can do a completely different episode of what that looks like because I feel like we all put it in a box. We all say that we're like looking like the Buddha, crossing our legs, putting the two hands on both of our knees, and we're like, and it doesn't look like that. And I don't want you to feel that. I don't want you to say that, oh, meditation doesn't work or meditation doesn't work for me because I'm not, about to be sitting on a pillow, like with a cross leg. Like it looks differently for everyone. Walking meditation is great for me. Vipassana meditation is really great for me because it's the meditation of silence, which I want because I have an avoidant attachment style. When I go into PMDD, Vipassana meditation is just a meditation it's like a vow of silence. Right. If you look at the movie, my favorite movie ever, Eat, Pray, Love by Julia Roberts, like all of my favorite movies are by Julia Roberts. Before Eat, Pray, Love, it was Pretty Woman. I love Notting Hill. I love all of her movies. Like she is like my doppelganger. Like I feel like I relate to her so much. Runaway Bride, hello. Like that was what one of my ex PMDD partners called me Runaway Bride. And I was like, oh, I took it as like a compliment. I think he was trying to insult me, but like I love Julia Roberts so much. And I was like, oh, I'm like the Runaway Bride. Like, but anyway, yeah, she went on that Eat, Pray, Love journey and she, went into like meditation and stuff that you go out of your comfort zone and you do things that you wouldn't normally do. And it looks different for everybody, right? But it's all in a matter of like trying to self-soothe. Like I'm not putting the burden on my PMDD partner to make my emotions feel better. I'm taking responsibility and saying, hey, I'm going to self-soothe. And whatever that looks like for me, I know last night I took a bath and I hadn't taken a bath in so long. I've been taking showers and I used to be like a complete bath person where I would get the bubbles, the bath bombs and all the things. And I've just gotten back to those things that have released the stress from my PMDD relationship. Like that has been the goal. And the next thing is breathing exercises. Again, this looks differently for me than it does for other people, but practicing deep breathing, right? So I don't even say that you need to have all of the like, the counting, that doesn't work for me. Like the 1, 2, 3, 4, breathe in for 4 and then release for 4. That doesn't work for me. I need to breathe on whatever count I freaking feel like in the moment, right? Because if I'm going through PMDD rage, counting is going to piss me off. Like I don't have time to do all that. I just need to deep breathe. I know deep breathing does work. But again, I mix my breathing with my walking meditation. So the other day, my PMDD partner was saying something to me that really triggered me. We were about to leave and he was like, do you have this? Do you have that? And he was like, I don't even know if I should come because I feel like it's going to be just like the last time. And I was like, I need to go take a walk. I took a walk like right before we were leaving for the airport because I was freaking pissed that he was basically going into argument mode right before we were about to catch a plane. And I was like, I don't have time for this. So I literally did the deep breathing while I was walking, right? So I was doing it, it allowed me to reduce the anxiety and the tension that I was feeling with the mixture of my PMDD symptoms. So I really began to take a really deep breath and then I was like breathing through it. And it just helped me to be in that place of like, I'm not going to freaking go off on you in PMDD rage. Like I needed that. Like that was a non-negotiable. So I know that like self-care looks differently for everyone, but like that was a must for me. Like there was no way I could stay in that moment without going off on him. I 100% was going to go off on him. I took a walk. I think it took like 15 to 20 minutes. And then I got back in the car and I was like, okay. So journaling, writing down my thoughts, I need to get it out, right? So I say so many times that when you're talking about self-soothing, holding in your PMDD emotions is only going to make them go off even worse in PMDD rage. I'm going to repeat that. Holding in your PMDD emotions is only going to make it go off even worse when you go into PMDD rage. I know so many times you think that you're doing the right thing by holding it in. You are not because they're not going anywhere, right? You have to let them out. You're putting basically your PMDD emotions, your really strong ones, in a jar. They're not going anywhere. Just because you suppress them doesn't mean that they're going to go anywhere. So journaling can look differently for you. Again, I've gone away from the conventional writing. I do some writing, but it's very short-lived. So writing down your thoughts, feelings, and experiences can provide an outlet for emotional expression. You know, journaling allows the PMDD partner to express their emotions and gain insights into patterns and triggers, really addressing and knowing what it is that you're going through. So for me, I like to journal verbally, right? And I've gotten into this, I would say the last 5 or 6 years where I used to sit down and write. But I noticed with PMDD, as my anxiety has increased over the years, just sitting down and, like sitting down and writing is not a thing for me because I literally feel anxious to where my pen was like shaking. So I needed to do something where I was actually like moving my body. So I like to I have a voice recorder and I literally go on walks and I talk. I walk and talk with myself and really talk about everything that I'm going through. Because if you think about it, everything that you do when you're talking into that voice recorder, nobody else is hearing. So it's not doing damage. If you try to immediately talk about your PMDD feelings with your partner when you're triggered, they're going to react to it and then you can end up in an argument. If you try to talk to your best friends or you try to talk to anyone, they're going to have opinion and you're going to go from expressing your thoughts to addressing their concerns. Like everything you do when you're expressing yourself verbally to an outside party, you're going to have to deal with their reactions to it. But when I have my verbal recorder and I'm just journaling verbally, like no one's going to hear that. It actually has a lock on it where you have to have a code where you can't even like press play on it unless you have the code. So I do that on a daily basis and just say whatever's going on with me and be really honest. If I want to cuss, if I want to fuss, if I want to say whatever, how I'm triggered, I'm getting it out. And so that's a way for me that I don't do damage to my PMDD relationship because I'm in that space of getting it out. And the next PMDD trauma transformational tool is physical exercise. I know that there's always this stigma about self-care and physical exercise where people have said, oh, I just did yoga and I, cured my PMDD. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying this is going to cure your PMDD. I'm saying that when you're in the realm of self-soothing because you're really triggered, whatever that looks like for you, right? I'm not going to tell you what kind of exercise to do. I won't do that because for me on a day-to-day basis, it looks differently. Earlier in my journey, I used to join these programs and say, oh, I'm going to do this 30-day calendar. But there were certain days where I couldn't do the exercise that was meant for Tuesday. And then I beat myself up over not being able to do it. And then I felt even worse about it. So now I intuitively exercise. I intuitively move my body, meaning whatever feels good to me, I will do. And I don't care what that looks like. I don't care if that's walking. Like I walk my dog automatically, but like if my exercise, I say at least 30 minutes a day, whatever that looks like. When that can be walking, I've really gotten into bar, which is a mixture of like ballet and yoga. I've really gotten into that. HIIT workouts, running, walking, whatever that strength training, it's all about not putting yourself in a box and saying which exercise you need to do, but just knowing if you're trying to self-soothe, if you're going through some really strong emotions, do whatever feels good for you in the moment. And the next PMDD trauma transformational tool is creative outlets. I have so many PMDD partner clients that are artists, and I love it so much because they paint, they draw, they write, they play an instrument. And that is a great way to have self-expression and an emotional release. You may build things like build Legos or do construction work, whatever it is, you're having that creative outlet to where you're not holding all of that stuff in. And I love that for you. I genuinely love that. And I love when my PMDD partners tell me about the projects that they're making. I've had a past PMDD partner client where she created dolls and they looked amazing. So a lot of times when you're getting into your luteal phase, you're getting into that really structured mode where you're just kind of putting your head down and doing your own thing. And I would say use that time to do a project. Make your PMDD time where you're feeling really internal, be of progress, do something about it. You know what I mean? And then the next thing is self-care rituals like taking a bath, listening to soothing music. I told you I took a bath yesterday and I had gotten away from that, but I didn't realize how that, I think it was only 20 minutes, really helps me release all of the tension that I was feeling. That was my way of self-soothing, right? So these techniques are not just for the partners that are dealing with PMDD. It's for the ones that are not having PMDD. Your partner may have to self-soothe. The next thing is progressive muscle relaxation. I am such a proponent for massages, and I know there's some PMDD partners that don't like to be touched, but massages have such a way of being a physical release. You're literally saying, I'm not doing anything. I'm just releasing myself into this bed, and you're just gonna massage my muscles. And there's so much tension. Every single time that I go to get a massage, I used to get one weekly. I used to do it Sunday. I get one every weekly, and I think I'm going to go back into that because it was a way of resetting my week. But when you go into that mode of relaxing your muscles, I used to hold my shoulders up all the time, hold them up. And then I noticed when I was getting those massages, I put my shoulders down, right? The next PMDD trauma transformational tool is distraction techniques. I love this because this is where Netflix comes in. Netflix, Hulu, and this new thing that I got called Peacock is basically I love watching movies. I don't really watch that much TV, but when I get into PMDD, I watch a lot of TV series, things that get my mind off of my PMDD suffering. And my PMDD partner does this too, where he's maybe triggered by something that we have going on. He was triggered this morning, and I noticed when I got back, he was watching the Family Guy, that funny show. He was watching that, and I know that he was doing it to self-soothe, as a way to distract himself, right, from however he was feeling those really, really strong emotions. The next thing is positive affirmations. Before you go into that doesn't work for me, that sounds so woo-woo. I used to do positive affirmations that were generic and they never worked for me, right? I was like, I am beautiful. I was like, that's a load of crap. I don't feel beautiful. I feel like a piece of crap. I don't feel beautiful. I don't feel any of these things that these affirmations are saying, but I chose a mantra. I'm into mantras, mantras as opposed to affirmations, because I do stuff that actually reflects me. So I'll say stuff like, I am free, because I value autonomy. I value being free. And so what I want you to do when you're talking about these affirmations is choose something that means something to you. Don't do these generic, whatever you can see on Instagram or Google or wherever. Don't make it very general. You have to make it specific to you. What do you value? I value freedom, which is why one of my affirmations, when I'm feeling really avoidant and I'm feeling like I'm being put in a box, I will say I am free. And that's a way of letting me know my PMDD partner is not trying to put me in a box. He's not trying to make me be a certain way. I have to let myself know that I'm free. And so the last thing is grounding techniques. Whatever grounds you, I want you to really think about the things that make you feel better, right? Grounding techniques looks different for everyone. I know for me, music is a big one. Like I like to listen to Afro beats, and I've told you this before, like really high vibe dance EDM music. I've used it so many times because it causes me to feel good about my day. Like when I'm feeling really triggered, if I put on really good vibe music, it like forces me to get into that mode of feeling good. And so I want you to think about, what are your grounding techniques when you need to self-soothe? What are the things that actually make you feel better? I want you to literally list them out, because you're going to do different things on different days. And so I really want you to understand what that looks like and go and do those things and allow yourself to feel better and allow yourself to lean in to the things that make you feel good. And most importantly, allow your PMDD partners to self-soothe. Release that responsibility of like, oh my gosh, my PMDD partner's in a bad mood, I need to fix them. You do not need to fix your PMDD partner. Everybody's emotional regulation is their responsibility. I'm going to repeat that. Everyone's emotional regulation is their responsibility. Just because they're in a relationship doesn't mean that they all of a sudden don't have to manage their emotions. They almost have to do so even more. So you have a hard enough time trying to manage what you have going on when you're in PMDD. Don't put that responsibility on yourself to do it for your partner too. Give them time. They may not initially manage their emotions initially, like right off the bat, but they're going to do it eventually. It's kind of like that crying baby where they cry, they cry, they cry. Eventually, they pick up a toy, they play with it, and then they're good. Allow your PMDD partners to self-soothe, because if you put yourself in a position where every single time that they shift their mood, where you're fixing it for them, they're never going to learn how to self-soothe within the PMDD relationship. So that's the crutch that you're going to be creating. And that is the level of responsibility that you're going to be putting on your plate, whether you're in PMDD or not. So let go of the pressure of regulating your PMDD partner's moods. The last thing is, your PMDD partner will annoy you. When you go into PMDD, they're going to be doing things that annoy you. But this does not mean that you're incompatible, that you're with the wrong PMDD partner. Any PMDD partner that you're with is going to annoy you. We are all going to have different emotions on a day-to-day basis. We may have different emotions all throughout the day. Stop thinking that you need to break up with your PMDD partner because they're experiencing different emotions. You're going to experience different emotions. Emotions are short-lived, they're fleeting, they come, they go. They're not facts. Feelings are not facts. The fact is that your PMDD partner is your person. The fact is that you're in this relationship and you're committed to it, regardless of the fact that you have PMDD or not. So focus on the fact and stop focusing on your PMDD partner's feelings and feeling like you have to fix them. That is too big of a burden that you can have, because when you're suffering in PMDD, the purpose of you having a partner is to help alleviate your symptoms, not to get you to a place where you're consistently feeling like you have to manage your emotions and your PMDD partners. If you approach your PMDD partner and their emotions are not regulated, if they're moody, give them time. A lot of times your PMDD partner will get rid of those emotions if you just give them time, but we're so much in the mode of immediately going to fix them that we're not even giving them time to learn how to fix them for themselves. So we kind of start crippling them in the relationship and feeling like, I can't regulate my emotions until you do this. And that's too much pressure. If your PMDD partner starts to feel, I can only feel better if you make me feel better, you don't need that type of pressure. And I understand that you want to feel needed. I understand that you want to feel valuable, but that is not the responsibility of being in an intimate relationship. Your responsibility for being with your PMDD partner is to support them in whatever journey that they're going through. And if that journey involves regulating their emotions, support them in it, but don't define it for them, because it may look differently. The way that you regulate your PMDD emotions is differently from the way that they regulate their emotions. So you can't say, hey, you need to do this, you need to do that, because it may not work for them. Like I told you, out of all the tools that I told you today, use what works for you. And if it doesn't work for you, don't force yourself to do it. If it doesn't feel good for you, do not force yourself to do it. I know as PMDD partners, we're always on a journey of figuring out, how can we cure our PMDD? What can we do differently? If something doesn't feel good to you, stop forcing yourself to do it. I did that earlier in my journey where I was trying to force myself. I created a whole meditation room with like a whole altar, and I was sitting there on these pillows and all these things, and it looked good, and I got absolutely nothing out of it. It wasn't until I got out of that room and started walking that I'm like, okay, meditation does work for me. I just can't be in that freaking room. So stop wasting your time, stop wasting your money on things that don't work for you. So this week on the Breakup Proof Academy, we're going to be going straight into defensiveness. All the whole month of August, we've been talking about the 4 pillars of PMDD conflict. So the first one is criticism. Then the next week, we talked about our hurt feelings from being criticized by our PMDD partner. Last week, we talked about blame. And then this week, we are talking about the biggest one, which is defensiveness. This is something that me and my PMDD partner always go through, where he blames me, then I get defensive, then we go back and forth and blaming and getting defensive with each other. And this has led to so many breakups, so many arguments, so much conflict. And I'm giving you the exact tools of what to do in your PMDD relationship. So if you've not joined, this is the absolute last week. This is the last week that you can get the discount to join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy for only $24. You have to use the code DR Rose, Dr. Rose. I'm only doing this discount because it's the month that I became a doctor. So I'm doing this flash sale. After that, it's going to go back to full price. So your first month is only going to be $24. We're going to meet weekly. You're going to get the tools that are going to eliminate the stress from your PMDD relationship. There are so many tools that are out there for all of these different symptoms that we have for our PMDD, but this is the one specifically for your relationship. So if you can remove your relationship stress from your PMDD, I want you to just think about that. How much better would your PMDD be if you didn't have relationship stress with your partner? If you didn't have to worry about having stress in your relationship with your partner, and you just lean on them for support and expect that they're going to support you and not have to worry about it, how much better would your PMDD be? The most important decision that you make in your PMDD journey when it comes to trying to heal, cure, navigate, manage, whatever word you want to use with your PMDD symptoms, is your relationship. Your relationship with your partner is going to affect every single thing that you do. So even if you're on this journey of being like, I'm going to heal my PMDD, and your relationship sucks because you're constantly arguing, you have stress, guess what? Whatever you're doing is not going to work. It is not going to work because your PMDD partner is going to cause you stress. And it doesn't mean that they're the wrong PMDD partner for you. It just means that any issue in your PMDD relationship is going to come down to your relationship with your partner. It's going to come down to that. It's going to come down to dealing with the issues that you have in your PMDD relationship. So before you go, and I'm telling you this because before you go and invest on a PMDD journey of doing things differently, I want you to get your relationship intact and see what your relationship looks like with your PMDD partner after you've used the tools. So if you are in that place and you're feeling like, I'm tired of going through the same thing with my PMDD partner again and again and again, I want to do something differently about it. Before you go and invest and go use any tools about any other PMDD symptom, I want you to focus on what that looks like with you and your PMDD partner. Use my tools in the Breakup Proof Academy and then see how many problems that you have. Because there's so many issues that have been eliminated by just addressing the things that have gone on in your PMDD relationship. So if you're dealing with a lot of anxiety, you're going to be really on edge. If you don't know how your PMDD partner is going to react, if you know that they're getting triggered when you're going into PMDD, all of these things, this is causing you anxiety. So a lot of times when you go into that mode of like, I need to do something about my PMDD anxiety, you need to do something about your PMDD relationship because that is the thing that's causing it. And it doesn't mean that you have the wrong PMDD partner, but it does mean that you need to understand the root of the issues that you have with your partner before you decide to do anything else. And then if you want to add anything else to it, I tell all of my private clients, they may have other things that they do within the PMDD community. I'm never going to tell you not to do it. Like, do whatever you want to do. But I always say, let's handle your PMDD relationship and see whatever's left over. And then you go from there. This last week, only $24 to join the PMDD Partners Breakup Proof Academy. Make sure that you use that code Dr. Rose, DR Rose, and go to my website, www.inlovewithpmdd.com. Get into the Breakup Proof Academy. You will have access to all the prior lessons. We meet every single week. On Tuesday, on Mondays, a new lesson is released. On Tuesdays, we have the Q&A where we pretty much just check in with whatever's going on in our PMDD relationship. And I've been told by members, it's like the check-in that you didn't know that you needed. right? You have all these stuff. I know things for me go on in my PMDD relationship on a daily basis. So if I don't have a place, if I don't have an outlet to really talk to someone about that, I can potentially do damage, right? Because I'm thinking that I'm trying to fix it, but I'm just so frustrated and I don't have the expertise. Like that's what you could be thinking. I'm going to be there every single Tuesday for going live. You can drop in comments, whatever you have going on. And we have a very supportive community. So I want you to make sure that you get in there, join, get the discount, because after that, it goes back full price. So if you're going to end up joining the Break Approved Academy anyway, you might as well do it with your first month at the discount. Otherwise, you're going to end up joining it and paying full price the next month. Because at some point, you know that you need to join because you know that you feel that pull to do something differently in your PMDD relationship. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to me, right? You know that you want things different. You know that you have that stress within your PMDD relationship. So why are you avoiding joining at a time that's going to bring you the best results and the best discount? So I will see you in the academy. Until next time, we got this. I hope this PMDD episode helped you and your partner in your struggles within your relationship. And if this is something that you know that you need help with and you need further support, individualized support, make sure you're going to inlovewithpmdd.com and you're getting those private sessions to really work through what you're going through in your relationship, specifically in regards to PMDD. And also, I want you to leave a 5-star written review on Apple Podcasts. What this does is it helps other PMDD sufferers and partners find this show that can help them get these free PMDD relationship tools. I remember what it felt like to not know that there were tools out there specifically for PMDD relationships. So I want to make sure that you are sharing these tools with others, share them on your social media, share them with people that you know that are also struggling in their PMDD relationships. Until next episode, this is Dr. Rose, your PMDD relationship psychotraumatologist. One more thing, I almost forgot. I now have the Fresh Start PMDD Partners Workbook. What this workbook can do is if you've had past traumatic experiences with your partner, past fights, past arguments, and they keep coming up every single month in PMDD, I created a Fresh Start Workbook so that you can deal with all of the traumatic experiences that have happened in the past in PMDD rage and all of these things so you can stop going through the same cycle again and again and again. So get that workbook. It comes with a video episode of the actual podcast that I recorded on getting a fresh start in your PMDD relationship. So you're not continuing the same cycle again and again and again. So make sure that you get that workbook. And if you need those individualized counseling sessions, you know where to go, inlovewithpmdd.com. Until next time, we got this. Love you.